Hello and welcome back to Simple Money Podcast, Canada's own personal finance podcast presented in short and informative episodes. I'm your host, Matthew Seawick, also known as the Friendly Financial Coach. So today we have a very, very special episode, our 100th episode. This is absolutely incredible, and I just want to thank all the listeners out there for joining along on the ride. It's been a lot of fun, and I am excited for future episodes with you. And as always, if you are able to, we do have a Patreon account, and any small donation can help out. The link to the Patreon account will be included in the show notes. So originally I had planned to finish up our series about personal finances and death, but I felt like this may have been a little bit too dark for our 100th episode. So instead, we're going to talk about politics, a topic only a little less darker than death. With the federal election quickly coming up on September 20th, I thought that it would be more valuable to see what promises the main parties have made that will affect your personal finances. It's also important to point out that pretty much all of these proposals are just promises at this point, so they may never happen. But it's still important to know what's on the table. It's also likely that we will probably have another minority government, which can also further change policies. Please consider voting and selecting the candidate of your choice. You can find your voting location on your voter's card or online. It's easy to vote, and there is even a way to do it if you don't have proper ID. All right, so the way that I'm doing today's episode is that I didn't really want to favor one of the parties by, putting them first. So I have a hat in front of me with the three major parties in it, and I'm going to randomly select a name. So let's see what we have here. So the first choice is, drum roll please, the PCs. So jumping into the PC platform. So it includes a bunch of smaller promises with the goal of balancing the budget within the next decade. It's likely that they didn't make as many promises as they are expecting to reduce expenditures over time. So the biggest promise that will affect personal finances is the goal to double the Canada Workers' Benefit for individuals and families. This would increase the benefit to $2,800 for individuals and $5,000 for families. And how this program works is it's a refundable tax credit that targets low-income Canadians and is tied to your employment income, or for families, their household income. The amount that you earn above approximately $13,000 reduces the tax credit until it's completely phased out at earnings above $24,500 for individuals, and a similar process is in place for families, where once you earn over a threshold, it's gradually reduced until you hit a point where it's completely eliminated. Now, this non-refundable tax credit is actually quite powerful, and I've seen it help a lot of individuals that are financially vulnerable. Another promise that's being made is to have a GST holiday. 5% GST holiday over a whole month, where all purchases exclude the GST portion on them. And the idea here is that this will help increase purchases and sales for businesses, which then can help stimulate the economy. And at the same time, it'll save some individuals on their expenditures. Importantly, the Conservative government would also cut Trudeau's childcare spending plan and implement a refundable tax credit instead. This would rebate up to 75% of eligible childcare costs. This tax credit would be tied to income that includes families with incomes up to $150,000. It's also promised that parents would be able to earn an income while they are on parental leave. So another promise is to alter the mortgage stress test requirements to help contractors, casual workers, and more. They would also extend EI parental leave for up to 8 weeks after the death of an infant. And then finally, to boost the hospitality industry, they would offer a 15% tax credit for vacations within Canada in 2022 and have a 50% rebate on food and non-alcoholic dining from Monday to Wednesday for a whole month. And yet again, the idea here is that they're trying to create an increased demand for Canadian businesses, which would then lead to further hirings. Okay, so let's move on to the next party. So the next one is, let's see here. Who do we have? The NDP. So let's see what the NDP has in store for us. Let me pull up my trusty notes here. Okay, so the central component of the NDP's platform is a universal pharmacare program. It's no doubt that medication can be debilitatingly high for some Canadians, and this program would eliminate this fee for all Canadians, which would allow them to use the money for other expenses or financial goals. The spillover from a universal pharmacare plan would also likely lead to a drop in medical insurance, as insurance companies would no longer need to pay for medication. And similar to the Liberals' promise, they are also pledging to create a universal $10 a day childcare plan. This policy isn't fully fleshed out yet, but they promise to work with each province to achieve this goal. With Canada being one of the most expensive places in the world for internet and cell phones, the NDP promises that they will reduce these costs, leading to an average savings of about $1,000. To help assist with the COVID-19 recovery, they promise to subsidize new hires and also rehires. This subsidy would help cover the employer portion of employment insurance and the Canadian pension plan. And on the flip side, to help pay for the increased spending, the NDP would also add a wealth tax of 1% per year on those with net worth over $10 million. And the benefits for this are obviously very straightforward: increased revenue from individuals that have higher income. Now, it's important to point out that it's uncertain how they would implement this program, as many countries have actually tried to implement wealth taxes in the past and have frequently failed. Although with the rapid increase in technology, there could be new opportunities that can be utilized there. When it comes to raising taxes, they're also looking at increasing how much is included under capital gains. So under current rules, you only have to include 50% of the gain from that asset. But under the NDP plan, they would increase that to 75%. And then finally, the highest federal tax bracket would also increase to 35% from 33%. Now on to the last party. It's the last piece of paper in the hat, so I don't actually need to pull it out. But obviously the last party are the Liberals. And the central promise from the Liberals is to create affordable childcare with the goal of cutting costs by 50% by the end of the year, and then eventually dropping the charge for childcare down to $10 a day. To do this, they will be investing in building new infrastructure to increase the supply of childcare spots across Canada. The cost of childcare is debilitatingly high, and many families can't afford it, leading to members of the family, very often the mother, leaving the workforce to take care of the child. Also, a new tax-free savings account would also be created for Canadians that are under 40 and are trying to save for a home. The rules are a little thin here, but the limit for this account will have a max of $40,000. They also propose to increase the home buyer's tax credit from $5,000 to $10,000. And for working Canadians, they will also improve the Canada Workers Benefit. This is the same program that the PCs are also promising to change to, but the proposals that the Liberals are making are slightly different. So what they're promising to do is to increase the income level at which the Canada Workers Benefit starts to be reduced to just under $23,000 for individuals and just over $26,000 for families. And the tax refund for this is up to $2,400. And to help cover those that are impacted by COVID-19, certain benefits will also be continued with a focus on hiring subsidies. To cover the charges for these new programs, the Liberals will increase taxes on a couple key demographics. The big one is increasing corporate taxes on large financial institutions and insurance companies. They will also continue with their plan to tax luxury cars, boats, and planes. And to make housing more affordable, they will add an anti-property flipping tax and tax vacant properties in land held by non-residents and non-Canadians. And some of their smaller promises include mandatory 10 days of sick days per year for federal employees. And then finally, They will limit the tax credits and deductions that those in the highest federal tax bracket can claim. And what they consider to be the highest tax bracket is when an individual earns over around $216,500-ish. The change will force them to pay a minimum tax rate of 15% versus the federal rate of 33% in the highest bracket. And then on top of that would, of course, be subject to the provincial or territorial tax rates that the individual would have. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this episode was able to help you navigate the election a little bit more. And also, please vote on September 20th for the candidate of your choice. Thank you again for listening to Simple Money Podcast. Talk to you soon. Be well and take care.